be able to recognize clinical features of liver abscess and how to investigate and formulate management plan. Okay, so liver abscess is basically localized collection of necrotic inflammatory tissue caused by bacterial, parasitic or fungal agents. Here actually we will be talking about only bacterial and parasitic type of liver abscess and we will not talk about fungal liver abscess because this is not that much common. Okay, so as we have talked earlier that we are dividing here the liver abscess into two main types, the amoebic liver abscess and the pyogenic liver abscess. So for the differential diagnosis of liver abscess, actually if it is a amoebic abscess, that must be differentiated from the pyogenic one, and the pyogenic one must always be differentiated from the amoebic one. Apart from that, sometimes the malignancy, if that is in an atypical presentation because of the necrotic material, that may also resemble the liver abscess. Liver cyst, if that gets infected, that may also resemble that of liver abscess. Apart from that, viral hepatitis, echinococcal disease, cholangitis, cholecystitis, they all may resemble liver abscess, and we must exclude these diagnoses. So let's talk about the amoebic liver abscess. Pathogenesis. Actually, what happens that contaminated water and food are roots of human infection, as you already know that the fecal-oral route, it is basically the transmission mode for this. So apart from that, poverty and cramped living conditions, these are associated with high rates of infection, and a male preponderance of more than 10:1 has been reported in almost all studies. That maybe because the males, they are going out and taking meals outside more than the females, that may be one of the reasons. Apart from that, heavy alcohol consumption is commonly reported and may render the liver more susceptible for the amoebic infection. Patients with impaired host immunity also appear to be at higher risk of infection and have higher mortality rates as well. Okay, so what happens whenever human, they ingest fecally contaminated water or food that contains the cyst? These cysts, these go into the stomach, but actually in the stomach these are not destroyed, and actually these go into the intestine, and here these trophozoites, they come out or hatch out of these cysts, and in the colon they cause amoebic colitis because these are the ones which are invading the colonic mucosa. And from here, if they are going into the blood stream, then these may cause the liver abscess. Not only the liver abscess, these may cause abscess anywhere, maybe in the lung or maybe in the brain as well. So for the clinical manifestation, actually fever, chills, anorexia, right upper quadrant pain and tenderness and hepatomegaly are predominant, not only for the amoebic liver abscess but for the pyogenic liver abscess as well. The clinical manifestation are nearly the same. There are slight differences that we will discuss while we will be discussing about the differences between the amoebic and the pyogenic liver abscess. The abdominal pain is typically constant, dull and localized to the right upper quadrant. Approximately 25% of patients have diarrhea despite an obligatory colonic infection. As we talked earlier, that whenever the patient ingests infected food, and then their trophozoites are hatched from the cyst into the colon, and then they infect the colon. But actually in the patients with amoebic liver abscess, you don't find these trophozoites in the stool of that patient, but only in 25% of patient they are presenting with diarrhea and trophozoites in the stool. Okay, jaundice as a result of large abscess yes, that may be there because of the compression of the biliary tree. Okay, but jaundice is much more common in pyogenic liver abscess, because usually the cause is the hepatobiliary cause. Okay, but here in amoebic liver abscess, jaundice is not very common. It is just because if the abscess is large enough, it is compressing the biliary tree, then there may be jaundice. Pleuritic or right shoulder pain may occur if there is irritation of the right hemidiaphragm. Symptoms and tenderness may be epigastric or left-sided if the abscess is located in the left liver. And if the patient is presenting acutely, I mean less than 10 days history versus those with a chronic presentation, that means approximately more than 2 weeks, they differ clinically. Okay, what happens in the acute presentation? Actually, in the acute presentation, their symptoms are more dramatic with high fever, chills and significant abdominal tenderness. In acute presentation, 50% of the patient, they have multiple lesions, whereas with the chronic presentation, more than 80% of patients have a single right-sided lesion. Actually, we have a concept that in amoebic liver abscess, we always find a single abscess cavity. No, that's not true. Actually, we also find multiple abscesses in amoebic liver abscess, but yes, not as commonly as that of in pyogenic liver abscess. Okay. Okay, sorry, yes, amoebic abscess complications, because actually the sign and symptom also depend on the complications. If there are complications, so naturally the sign and symptom will also be added. So hepatic amoebic abscess is essentially the result of liquefaction necrosis, and that may burst anywhere. That may burst into the pleural cavity, that may burst into the pericardium, or even into the peritoneal cavity. So naturally the symptoms will be according to that type of complication. For example, if there is abscess that has burst into the peritoneal cavity, then patient, along with all those symptoms that we have discussed earlier, that patient may present with the peritonitis. Okay. So what about the investigations? Patients typically have a mild to moderate leukocytosis without eosinophilia. Okay, anemia is also common. Mild abnormalities of LFT result. The most common LFT abnormality is elevated PT-INR ratio. Okay, remember that because more than 70% of the patients with amoebic liver abscess do not have detectable MAB in their stool, so this is not a good investigation to do for the diagnosis of amoebic liver abscess. Rather, the most useful laboratory evaluation is the measurement of circulating anti-amoebic antibodies, which are present in approximately 90 to 95% of patients. Okay, so serology is good to for the diagnosis. Okay, and these are all tests that can be done, but actually an indirect hemagglutination test has been used extensively in the past because it has a sensitivity of 90%, but this test has largely been replaced by enzyme immunoassays. For example, the enzyme linked immunosorbent assays. We detect presence of antibodies against the parasite. These are simple tests, rapidly performed and inexpensive. But unfortunately, the presence of antibodies may reflect prior infection, and interpretation can be difficult in endemic areas as a country, because in Pakistan, MEBS is basically endemic. Throughout the year you see these cases. So naturally, if you have to diagnose an acute case, so then it becomes really difficult, because these patients, they already have antibodies in them. So in such areas, counter immunoelectrophoresis is a much better option. So now about the radiological studies. These are critical element in the diagnosis of amoebic liver abscess, and plain X-ray chest Actually, these are not used for the direct diagnosis, but there may be some telltale sign that may lead towards your diagnosis. For example, in approximately 50% of cases, these x-rays, they may demonstrate elevated right hemidiaphragm, as you can see here. This is elevated, you can compare with this one, you see. So this is quite elevated. There may also be pleural effusion or atelectasis. Okay. Ultrasound is a very good modality for the diagnosis of liver abscess. Typical findings on abdominal ultrasound are rounded lesion abutting the liver capsule, okay, and without significant rheumatic cause, okay, and the contents of the cavity are usually hypoechoic and non-homogeneous. You can see these are hypoechoic and non-homogeneous, because you can see this is slightly whitish, this is slightly blackish, non-homogeneous, okay. This is because of the necrotic debris, okay. Color Doppler will demonstrate the absence of central perfusion. Why? Because there is necrosis, so naturally there is no blood flow in the necrotic tissue. Okay, now about the CT scan. Abdominal CT scanning is probably more sensitive than ultrasound. CT can also be helpful in identifying simple cysts and necrotic tumors. So this is a very good modality. And here you can see this is hypoattenuating lesion, and here there is a rim. Rim is basically the abscess wall. Here you can see this is actually called a double target sign, okay. Why this is called as double target sign? Because you can see here that there is a thick wall, you can see this is thick enhancing wall, and there is a outer rim that is actually hypodense, okay. You can see this is hypodense and this is a dense wall. So this is basically, this dense wall is actually the lining of this abscess cavity, while this surrounding shadow, this is basically because of the edema, peripheral edema, okay. This is called as double target sign. So how to manage these cases? There are two major options, medical and surgical. So the mainstay of the treatment for amoebic abscess is metronidazole. So how we give basically 750 mg orally 3 times daily for 10 days, which is curative in more than 90% of the patients, and this clinical improvement is usually seen within 3 days, okay. So if response to the metronidazole is poor or the drug is not tolerated, then we can try other agents like tinidazole. And remember that after treatment of the liver abscess, as we have talked about earlier with the metronidazole or tinidazole, actually then we have to give some luminal agents as well, such as diloxanoid furoate. That must be administered for 10 days to treat the carrier state, okay. And surgical treatment should be reserved for the complications of rupture into the pleural cavity, into the peritoneal cavity or pericardial cavity. But remember that when an abscess ruptures, actually if this is diagnosis is quite clear, and you know that this peritonitis is secondary to the rupture of amoebic liver abscess. So actually nowadays laparotomy is avoided and usually there is simple drainage, okay. But if peritonitis is not clear that what is the cause of this peritonitis, and if you know that there is along with that hollow viscous perforation or fistulization and there is hemorrhage or sepsis, then yes, you can go for laparotomy, okay. So aspiration is actually not indicated for all cases, Okay, and here you can see the aspirate. This is actually just like anchovy sauce, exactly matching, you know. So why this is like this? Because actually the blood is mixed with the necrotic liver tissue, that's why it is brownish in color. So indications of aspiration, because as we told that mainest of the treatment is basically the medical treatment. So usually we are not doing aspiration. So when to do aspiration, these are all indications for the aspiration. When we have done all the workup as we have discussed earlier, and even then the diagnosis is not definitive and we have diagnostic uncertainty, so then there are two main options. So number one, a therapeutic trial of anti-amoebic drug can be used. If a rapid improvement occurs, this supports the diagnosis, okay. But in situations in which amoebic serology is inconclusive and a therapeutic trial of antibiotics is deemed inappropriate or has failed to improve the symptoms, then second option is a diagnostic aspiration that must be considered. Because how can then we differentiate that whether this is a pyogenic abscess or the amoebic abscess? Number one is the color. As we have discussed earlier, and we have shown you the anchovy sauce type of pus. Okay. Other thing is that a pyogenic abscess would have bacteria and leukocytes, whereas an amoebic abscess would contain the typical so-called anchovy sauce with the cultures usually negative, because this type of pus does not contain leukocytes. In patients for whom neoplasm or hydatid disease is in the differential diagnosis, please avoid aspiration. In such cases, even for the diagnostic purpose, we are not doing aspiration. Okay, for hydatid disease, inshallah, we will talk later. Then you will come to know that why we should avoid aspiration in hydatid disease. Okay. So now, what about the pyogenic liver abscess? So pyogenic liver abscess is actually now mostly seen in patients in their 50s or 60s, and it is more often related to the biliary tract disease. The liver is probably exposed to the portal venous bacterial loads on a regular basis, okay, but usually it clears this bacterial load without problems. The development of a hepatic abscess occurs when the bacterial load exceeds the liver ability to clear it. That makes sense, right? Okay, so the potential routes of hepatic exposure to the bacteria are biliary tree, portal vein, hepatic artery, direct extension of a nearby nidus of infection, and trauma. So biliary obstruction results in bile stasis with the potential for subsequent bacterial colonization, infection, and ascension into the liver. This is known as ascending suppurative cholangitis. Okay, the nature of biliary obstruction is mostly related to the stone disease or malignant disease. In our setup or even in Asia, basically the intrahepatic stones and cholangitis, these are common causes, whereas in West, malignant obstruction has become a more predominant cause. The portal venous system drains the GIT, therefore any infectious disorder of the GIT can result in an ascending portal vein infection, pyelophlebitis, with exposure of the liver to the large amounts of bacteria. Okay. Any systemic infection, for example, pneumonia, osteomyelitis, endocarditis, that can result in bacteremia and infection of the liver through the hepatic artery as well. Hepatic abscesses can be the result of direct extension of an infectious process also. For example, suppurative cholecystitis, subphrenic abscess, periphrenic abscess, and even perforation of the bowel directly into the liver, that may result into the pyogenic liver abscess. Penetrating and blunt trauma can also result in intrahepatic hematoma or an area of necrotic liver. And as you know that the necrotic tissue and blood, that is a good culture medium for the bacteria. That's why the bacteria grow in this, and that may result in pyogenic liver abscess. Okay, so actually this is a cluster sign. It is a feature of pyogenic hepatic abscess, because you can see that there is aggregation of multiple low attenuation liver lesions in a localized area, okay, to form a solitary larger abscess cavity. This is a much larger abscess cavity, but actually this is consisting of smaller abscesses in a small area. That's why this is called as cluster sign. So for the management, actually percutaneous aspiration and catheter drainage along with the antibiotic course, these are the mainstay of the treatment. If you remember that for amoebic liver abscess, number one is the antibiotic, okay, and we are not preferring the aspiration, but here in the pyogenic liver abscess we do aspiration. Previously there was only percutaneous aspiration, but nowadays catheter drainage is preferred because the success rate approaches approximately 90% with the catheter drainage. So this is a very important slide, because here we can contrast the features of amoebic with that of the pyogenic liver abscess. Here you can see that amoebic abscess is much commoner in the younger population, while in the pyogenic abscess you can see slightly older group is there. Male to female ratio, this is much more in amoebic abscess than in the pyogenic abscess. You can see here that approximately 10 males for over 1 female, while here 1.5:1, okay. And solitary versus multiple, we have discussed earlier that our previous concept that amoebic abscess is always and always single, while pyogenic abscesses are always and always multiple. No, that's quite wrong. Actually solitary abscesses are there in 80% of cases, but actually this is in the chronic. For liver abscess we have defined the chronic as more than 2 weeks of disease, okay. While in acute amoebic abscess you will find approximately 50% of the solitary. That means there are multiple abscesses, okay. But yes, if we ask you that multiple liver abscesses are common in amoebic or in pyogenic type, so your answer will be in pyogenic type. In pyogenic type, multiple, yes, these are much commoner than that of the amoebic one, okay. Location, in both cases this is towards right liver, because as we have discussed earlier that the portal venous drainage is preferentially towards the right liver, okay. Travel in endemic areas for amoebic abscess, yes, but here in our setup, because our country is itself an endemic area, so we don't need any travel history for that. Diabetes is less common in case of amoebic, while more common in pyogenic type of abscess because of the lower immunity, okay. Alcohol use, if there is alcohol use, so that will render the patient susceptible for both type of abscesses. Jaundice is much commoner in pyogenic type of abscess, because as we have discussed earlier, because the common cause of pyogenic abscess is hepatobiliary route. That's why this is much commoner in this, while in amoebic liver abscess only the size is usually the problem that is causing compression over the hepatobiliary tree and causing jaundice. Otherwise it's not common, okay. And that's the reason that bilirubin is not that much elevated as that of the pyogenic abscess. And LFT's disturbance is common in both. Positive blood culture definitely not in amoebic abscess until and unless it is secondarily infected, okay. positive amoebic serology, definitely it is present in amoebic type of abscess. So these are my reference book. Okay, love your parents. We are so busy growing up, we often forget they are also growing old.